I've been dabbling with server-side Swift over the last few weeks, and unfortunately there isn't as much documentation as I'd have liked. So today I'll take you through the entire process of creating a production application from scratch using Vapor 3. We'll go ahead and add custom routes, we'll serve views, we'll take a look at futures and promises, and finally we'll deploy our project to our own VPS and enable HTTPS through a SSL certificate. All of the commands you see in the video will be available in the description below. Let's start things off by first installing Vapor. The easiest way is through Homebrew. If you don't have it already, just run the following command in terminal. Now we'll use Homebrew to install Vapor. We need to add Vapor to Homebrew, so let's first run brew-tap Vapor homebrew-tap. This informs Homebrew about the location of the Vapor dependency. Once that's done, you can go ahead and run brew update, and the final command would be brew install Vapor. I've run all these commands, that's why they're finishing so quickly. Now we're ready to create a project using one of Vapor's default templates. So what we'll do is we'll say Vapor new, followed by the project name, in this case Hacker News, and now we can specify a template. It's easiest to get things going with one of Vapor's default templates. So we'll point to the official GitHub Vapor repo, and we'll specify that we want to use their web template. Great, so if you see this message, you know that Vapor is correctly installed and that our project has successfully been created. Now let's enter our project directory. And now we need to run a few commands. First, let's go ahead and build the project. This step is going to fetch all of the relevant dependencies we have, and you will see that even though we're using the web template, it comes with quite a few dependencies. So just including Vapor and including Leaf, there's a lot of sub-dependencies that come down with it. Though you don't have to use Xcode with Vapor, it's an IDE I know and I'm comfortable with, so I will go ahead and continue to use Xcode for my Vapor project. So we'll go ahead and run Vapor Xcode, followed by a -y, which says to go ahead and open up the Xcode project once it's been created. Great, now we have our project set up. Let's take a quick look at the important files. The first file is package.swift. This is where we specify any third-party dependencies we want to use, and then use Swift Package Manager to install them. In this case, we're using Vapor, obviously, and Leaf, which will be used to render our HTML pages. Just know that anytime you add a dependency here, you need to also include it in the list of dependencies for your app. We'll put our actual backend code in the app folder. App.swift is called when the Vapor project is run and is used to inject environment properties into your project. For example, this informs whether the app should be launched in a dev, test, or production mode. Then it calls configure to set up any services and middleware you've defined. And finally, it boots your application. If you wanted to perform some actions or change some settings like the hostname or the port before the server starts, you would do that in boot.swift. You generally won't need to touch either the app or boot Swift files. Now let's take a closer look at configure.swift. This is where we customize our application and do things like configure the use of our third-party dependency like Leaf. If we didn't have this line, the app wouldn't know to pass the views over to Leaf to manage rendering. Also, another important line is this set here. This is what serves all of your static files in your public directory. Without this line, your CSS files, images, fonts, etc. wouldn't load. Your public file is here. As you can see, you have an images and styles folder that you can eventually build out to be a full website. You could also specify multiple router objects here, register other middleware, configure a database connection, and any other configuration type work you might need to do before your application initializes. Everything else that you see here is standard Vapor default code. Finally, we have our resources in our public folder. This folder, Resources, Views, is the default location Leaf looks to find the HTML pages to serve. So instead of an HTML extension, Leaf pages have a .leaf extension, but as you can see, they are just HTML code under the hood. Now, public is where you would put all additional resources your website needs. Your JavaScript files, your CSS, your images, your fonts, anything else. Now, to run the project, it's important that we come up here and we select the Run scheme. After that, we can hit Run, and let's go ahead and see our debug console. You can see after the project is built, it'll tell us that our server is running on some localhost port, likely 8080 if you haven't changed any configuration properties. So now we can take this link and we can go over to our website, and we can see here it works. So we have successfully installed Vapor using Homebrew. We've created a project from a template, and we can go ahead and run our server. In the following videos, we'll build out a Hacker News type website, and we'll finally deploy it in the final video. If you liked the video, please subscribe and hit the like button. And if you like this kind of content, please let me know in the comment section down below.